Welcome to the inaugural launch of the Women, Leather, and Hell podcast. I am your host, Gillen H2O.
And I am Chuck.
Our other co-host, Scott, couldn't be here with us today, and we wish him the best as he's dealing with a family emergency type issue. But today is going to be a geek out moment for me because we are going to interview Antony Bray, better known as Abaddon, the original drummer for the band Venom, and one of my lifelong favorite bands, probably the band that got me into metal music. So without further ado, how are you doing today?
How are you? I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Doing pretty good. So if you don't mind me asking, it's like, how did you guys first come to form Venom?
I answered I guess it was a request for a drummer from a guy called Jeff Dunn, who turned out to be Mantis. He had a band at the time and they were looking for a drummer. And I turned up and, we cracked away, and the rest of the band I thought were pretty shit. Then I told him afterwards, and I said, I think you're pretty cool, but I don't think the band's very good. The other guy's a bass player, the guitar player. And we rehearsed for a couple of weeks, but it didn't work out. So I wound up sacking them. And we carried on with another guy that I knew called Clive Archer, who was on vocals, and another guy that I knew who was a bass player. And that's how Venom started, really. It was just me and Mandis.
Oh, okay. At what point did Kronos enter into the fold?
That was quite a while later. Jeff was at a party one night with his girlfriend, and she had a mutual friend who knew this guy who worked at a local record company called Neat Records, and that was Conrad Lant. That was he later became known as Kronos. So that's how the three of us got together. He turned up at a rehearsal space one day. We used to rehearse in a church hall, and he came down to see us and decided he wanted to stay.
Oh, awesome! Now, about what year did you guys start off?
That would have been around 78, 79. It was that kind of, I would have been 18 years of age, so sort of, I was like 18, Jeff was, I guess, 17. We'd all sort of just left school. But there was a real big deal with heavy metal in the north of England, with bands like Motorhead, Priest, Thin Lizzy, UFO, Rainbow Rush, so many bands. Plus, there was this burgeoning thing called the new wave of British heavy metal with kind of Saxons, Iron Maidens, Praying Mantis, so many Blitzkrieg, Tyson Dog. And we were on the kind of a crest of that wave, really. A lot of people ask if Venom were a new British heavy metal band, and I don't think we were. But just the timing of it was at that time, that kind of late 70s, early 80s kind of thing.
I actually, I have to, my geek out moment is that, Venom is actually single-handedly responsible for me listening to heavy metal music at all.
Oh, wow. Not my fault.
Yeah, my mother would like to talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. I just put my mom on the line.
But actually, we met you guys. God, I can't remember what year it was. It was the first Venom Inc. tour.
So the 2017, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around in there. We were at the Richmond, Virginia show.
And he does not mean me. I wasn't there.
Cool.
Oh no, he wasn't.
I wasn't there.
You remember the guys that brought the backdrop that you guys used?
Oh yeah.
That was that was us. That was me and Jamie. Yeah,
that's right, James. Yeah,
James. And actually, I bring that up because James used to when we were in high school. James used to come into Mrs. Hensley's biology class, and he always had these at the time what I thought were god awful metal shirts. I said, man, why? So, dude, why are you wearing that? And he's like, man, I'm gonna make you a mixtape, and I guarantee you, if you listen to it open mind, you're gonna like it. So I'm like, yeah, right. So you go ahead and bring me that mixtape, and we'll see. Because at the time, I was listening to mostly like LL Cool J and Houdini.
Yeah.
And
real music.
Yeah. And the first mixtape he gave me was black metal, and the other one the first one was actually At War with Satan. And the second one side was black metal, and the other side was just a hodgepodge of a bunch of different bands. And
right.
That started the sickness.
Yeah. Was that the night you were, we had the guys from, John from Raven was there?
Yes.
Yeah, and who else was there?
The guys from Municipal Waste were there.
Municipal Waste, that's right.
And Necrophagia opened for you guys.
That's right. That was a great night.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
I had a blast.
That was a good night, yeah.
But yeah, that was my geek out moment. So, but so what was it? I mean, I guess what was it like to basically, you guys were basically like the pioneers of the whole DIY method of doing music.
Yeah, it was just. Well, we grew up in a very heavily industrial area in the northeast of England. Sort of, our parents, our father, our uncles, whatever, were all in heavy industry, and it was a period of regression, I guess. There wasn't a lot of money going about, and nobody owned their own homes, nobody owned a car, people didn't own telephones. So it was pretty rough. It was pretty tight. So it wasn't a case of going out and spending, a couple of $1,000 on a guitar or anything like that. So yeah, it was very much, make it up as you go along. But we kind of thought that was normal. We didn't. I mean, we used to play some Motorhead songs and Judas Priest riffs and what have you when we were rehearsing. Mm-hmm. But mostly it was always about. Make it up as you go along. We thought that's how you were in a band. You just played. The place we used to rehearse in Newcastle was up this huge hill, which was full of motorbike shops. And all these bikers used to hang out, and they used to come and listen to us rehearsing. So we were kind of drawn. These people, 20, 30, 40 people a week would come in and see us, and just sit down and listen to us rehearsing. And we kind of thought that's what bands do, I mean, it wasn't until we saw other bands like Raven and Fist and Tigers, who were playing in working men's clubs, and pretty much pissing people off because they were too heavy, Yeah. And these guys just went, the men, whatever, were just out for a break from the 9 to 5 sort of, going down the coal pit and working in heavy industry factories and in the shipyards. So they just wanted to go out and chill with their mates, and then all of a sudden there's this heavy metal band kicking shit out the place, and it was like so some of those bands, they call it paying their dues, and they certainly did that. And Venom never did that. We were pretty lucky from day one, really, that everything we did kind of turned to gold, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but on your guys' first major show or showcase that you put on, did Metallica open for you guys?
That's right. Yeah, we Need Records, kind of who we were with in this little town, Wall's End, in the northeast of England. They used to have this crazy way of doing deals. They didn't have what you call worldwide distribution. They had distribution with different partners in different countries. So we would be on a different label in Italy, and a different label in South America, different label in Japan, different label in Canada, and it was Johnny Z's label, Megaforce in North America, you know. And Johnny said, you know, as well as putting, you know, he had a shop, so it wasn't like he was just a distributor or just a record label. He actually had a shop that he'd had for years, and he put our records in the shops, and people were coming in to buy it and asking who this band were, blah, blah, blah. And Johnny got in touch with the guy at Neat and said, look, why don't they come over here and play? You know, they don't have to do a full tour. They don't have to, you know, spend millions of dollars. Let's just get them doing 2 shows on the East Coast. And we did. We played the same venue in Staten Island on the Friday night and the Sunday night. And yeah, Metallica opened up. We all stayed together in Johnny's house, and that was raucous, man. It's just fucking this little quiet house in this suburb in New Jersey. And all the members of Venom and all of our crew and all the guys from Metallica as well, just getting drunk and stoned and fucking raising hell, you know.
That sounds like that was a wild night in the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I think we stayed there like 2 weeks, kind of a week leading up with some rehearsals and then a little bit afterwards, you know. But so I mean, but John and Marsha were wonderful to us, and you know we all just got on really well together.
Now, what was the last Venom album that you played on before the split?
Oh, the last one I did. Well, I did.
The original ones. Oh, okay.
Up to Possessed, yeah. And then Kronos was doing his own thing. Mantis was doing his own thing. And I kind of carried on because I had a recording studio then. Brian Johnson, the singer with AC/DC, had a recording studio here, and he sold me his studio.
Wow.
And I got in touch and suggested to Jeff that we could get back together and do some more, and we did another, 4 or 5 albums after that as Venom with Tony Dolan. Right. So it was a case of just carrying on, really, and you know we did some good albums during that period.
Yeah, I think I have 3 of those. I have.
Yeah, it was a good period.
Yeah, it was. So you weren't on the Calm Before the Storm album?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's always the one that eludes me. It's kind of in the middle. Yeah. That came about. There was a friend of mine who was playing in bands, Jim Clare, and I asked him to do this thing, and he said yeah. And then I had a friend in America who ran an agency. Excuse me, ran an agency, and she said she had this American guy called Mike Hickey, mm-hmm. who was from Boston, and Mike wanted to be in an extreme band. It was a funny story because she sent me a tape over, and I played the tape, and I loved it. And I played it at Kronos, and he liked it. And we got Hickey over, and we went down to London to pick him up, and we brought him up north, and we set him up in a house, and yada yada, and we rehearsed, and we did the album. And we were sitting around one day in my house, and I put some records on, and Hickey was going through the record collection, just having a look, see what to play, and he went through some cassette tapes, and he saw this cassette of Mike Hickey. And he went through he said, what is this? And I said, oh, it's a thing that I got. It's your kind of demo tape, you know, that was sent to me, and that's how you got the job, you know. And Mike put it on, and he started playing it, and he's sitting there, and I was listening to this great guitar player, and he said, "Oh man, that's not me."
Oh wow!
I don't know. Well, okay.
Funny story about Mike Hickey. James, the guy that was with me when we were at that show in Richmond, when we were in high school, he calls me up one day and he goes, "I've got the phone number for Mike Hickey, the new guitar player for Venom."
Okay.
I don't know how he got it. So he was like, "Let's call him." And I thought calling him, I thought he would completely blow us off because we were like freaking Nimrod kids, fanboys, but he was really cool with us, talked to us, and we actually got all you guys' autographs from him.
Oh, cool!
And we got like handwritten lyric sheets and stuff. Jamie still had all that stuff when we met you guys in Richmond. I had since lost everything that I had back in high school.
James kept everything. Kept absolutely everything.
Oh yeah.
I remember when I first met Mike. I remember thinking he was the most American kid I'd ever met, like the most sort of high school type of kid. I mean, he was obviously older, but he just seemed like a high school kid.
Yeah.
We were standing at the airport when we picked him up. We were standing waiting for a taxi, and there was a sign which said "Q this side." So Q, the word was Q-U-E-U-E. So Mike's reading this and he's standing there and I could see that the cogs turning in his head. He said, "Hey man, what does that say? What is a QE?" I went, "What?" He said, What the fuck's a QE? And I went, "Well, what?" And he goes, "There, man, on the sign, QE." "Well, what is it?" And I went, "No, man, it says Q." He goes, "Q?" I goes, "Yeah, that's what we're doing." I said, "What would you call it?" I said, "It's the way we are. We're standing waiting in the line." I said, "What would you call it in America?" And he goes, "Standing in line, man." Oh, okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh wow! So now, when you and Jeff decided to go ahead and continue on with Venom, because I know Kronos had went off to do his own thing. He had a band called Kronos at that time. And I think him and Mike went and did that. Him, Mike, and I think Jim Clare went with them.
And Jim.
Yeah.
Jim did, yeah. They recruited another American lad called Chris Patterson.
Okay. Yeah.
Chris was an old friend of Hickey's from Boston, I guess. So it was kind of half and half, really.
Yeah. Did you get? Was it hard? Was it? I guess I said. Was it amicable between all you guys when you guys decided to continue on with Venom?
It wasn't bad really, but it wasn't like we bumped into each other all the time either. So it just kind of was what it was, Conrad was happy enough that the band was called Kronos. He was happy enough that he kept the two guitar players. Mm-hmm. And he was able to recruit a drummer easy enough. It didn't hurt him too much. Okay. At the time, I was doing some deals. I had a management deal that I was doing through Music for Nations. And the guy at Music for Nations said, "Why don't you do a Venom album?" And I was like, "Well, without Kronos, how would that be?" He goes, "It would still be you." He says, "If you got Mantis back in, it would be better because it'd be two of you out of the three. 2 out of 3 is better, blah, blah, blah." And that's how it came about that we carried on, really. It was the guy from MFN, Martin Hooker, who said that he would have loved to do a couple of Venom albums, which is what we did for them, and I thought we did really well.
Yeah, they were actually really good albums. How'd you come about meeting Tony?
I've known Tony for years. My Venom's early manager, or Venom's manager right through, really, was a guy called Eric Cook. And Eric's brother, Jed, was the drummer in a band called Adamcraft. And Tony was in Adamcraft. So I knew him from that, and I used to tour manage quite a few bands. American bands mostly, Nuclear Assault, Nasty Savage, bands like Crumbsuckers, quite a few bands like that. And we always put Adam Kraft on the bill. Oh. And I knew Tony through that kind of deal. And when I asked him about getting Jeff back into Venom, and he said, yeah, because he was still in contact with Jeff. And he said, yeah, it sounds good, sounds like a great idea. And I said, well, can you have a word with him? And he said, yeah, sure, I'll speak to him. And he says, do you want a hand as well finding somebody to play bass and sing? And I said, yeah, I want you to do it. And he was like, what? And he thought I wanted him to help me find somebody. And I said, no, I want you to. I want you to do it. You're not doing Adam Kraft anymore, so why don't you do it? So that's how that came about.
Oh, okay. Now then we're going to fast forward. I know that you guys did what I think you did 4 or 5 albums as that incarnation.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was. A lot of it was to do with the fact that I owned the recording studio at the time, so it was easy for us to get in and demo stuff up to a pretty high quality without costing a lot of money. We didn't have to sort of book anywhere. We didn't need hotels. It was quite easy to do it. I mean, we could kind of book out a week or two and then at the last minute just cancel it if we had to. It didn't cost anything. There was no hardship, So it was quite a period of quite easy recording. So a lot of what we got advance wise went on mixing and cutting and artwork and that kind of thing. So we could keep the quality up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Now I know that for a minute after that era, you guys kind of went dark or went silent there for a while, and then you guys came back with Cast in Stone. Were you on the Cast in Stone album?
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
again, I'd spent a long time. Part of the tour management thing was we had a deal with a festival in Holland called the Dynamo Festival.
Oh yeah.
And we had a good relationship with the guys there, the people there, and the guy who ran it, Andre Verheysen, kept saying to me, why don't you get Venom here? Why don't you get Venom here? I'll pay you XYZ amount of money and you can do all the pyro and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can only ask. So I was asking for like 2 years to Kronos and to Mantis and getting no real response. And then just one time out of the blue, sort of, I got a more positive response and said, okay, why don't we meet? Go to the pub and just sit down and have a chat, and so we did. And I said, look, even if we only do one gig, even if we only do the Dynamo Festival, it'll be massive. It'll be a great way to end Venom on a high note. And, we go out looking gigantic and yada, yada. So we did, but we wound up doing, we played in Milwaukee, did the Metal Fest. We did the Olympic Stadium in Athens, in Greece. We did a few in Holland. So it was a period of a year or two and one great album. Really, that was what that was about, And it was another good period in the band's history. Really, it was a good time, good couple of years.
Oh, okay. And then I think the last thing you guys did before I think you either you left or he left was the Resurrection album.
That's right. Yeah, I left before that. Yeah.
Oh, you left before
the demos. Yeah, I was on the demos on that. And it had been. I mean, Mantis had decided he wanted to sack Kronos. He wanted me to send him a letter, so I sent him a letter saying that me and Mantis were going to carry on together. And the next thing I knew, I get a demo sent through the door, and the two guys were in Germany working together, and I thought, well, this is just fucking stupid, If you want to work together, that's great, but if you don't go sacking the guy, just fucking leave it, And I just thought, well, it was all a bit cheesy, so I didn't do anything about it, and they wound up at the last minute getting Kronos' brother in to play drums on it.
Oh, okay, all right. I knew he had played with Kronos, but I couldn't remember which album he started on, because I think he did that one. I think he might have did the Metal Black album.
I think possibly, yeah. I don't really know much about that.
Yeah, that's about where I fell off with Venom. I think that's the last thing that Kronos put out that I actually listened to was the Metal Black album.
Yeah.
But then, how did you guys get together when? Because I know later on you joined, or not joined, but you guys formed Venom Inc.
Yeah, it was a strange one because Tony and Jeff were playing together in a band called Empire of Evil, and they had Kronos' brother in as well, so it had kind of been a spin-off after Resurrection, I guess. I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm guessing that Kronos' brother Anton and Jeff and Tony Dolan kind of got this thing together. And I gather it wasn't doing very well. It wasn't very well taken. But they played at a festival in Newcastle where I live, and I happened to be there in the crowd. It was a 2 or 3 day thing, and I was there at the bar. And they got up and did a couple of Venom songs. And this guy was there, Oliver, from a festival in Germany, I now know, and a festival called Keep It True.
Yep.
And he kind of looked at me as if, why aren't you getting the play? And I was like, well, I don't know, nobody asked me to play. And that was that. And then, I don't know, a month or two later, I get a phone call or a message or something. And it's Oliver, and he said, look, Empire of Evil are going to be playing at this festival of mine. Would you come over if I pay for flights and hotels and whatnot? Would you come over and play some original Venom songs with them? And I said, well, I would, yeah, I've got nothing against it. And from what I heard, there was a lot of negativity from them. But I guess Oliver is quite a persuasive guy. So I headed over there, and as soon as we hit the stage, there was this. I mean, the response was gigantic. The response from the crowd was gigantic. We only played, I think, half an hour or something, and instantly we get phone calls from China, from Japan, from America, from Canada, saying, will you come over here and do it? Will you come and play some dates? And it was like, well, yeah, why not? I mean, it had gone so well, and it was so easy to do, and there was none of the friction that some people thought would have been there. It was just, it's a very, very easy thing to do, to be in Venom. It's only the surmised personalities that stop it from happening.
All right. And then, you guys did, well, you were on one album, Ave, and then,
yeah. And
then at that point, I guess, did you do 1 or 2 U.S. tours before you left?
I did 2. When I was on the second one in the middle, I got a phone call from my wife. We got pregnant, and I got a phone call where she'd had her first scan, and I was on the tour bus with Jeff and Tony and with John Zazula and Marsha, and I got the phone call showing me the results of the scan and everything was fine and blah blah blah, and I really wish I'd been there, No, but I said, look, we've got 9 months here to plan dates. I'm going to have to take time off. It's going to be March. We know the date. Mm-hmm. It's going to be March, so don't plan any dates around that time. Give me, a couple of weeks to support my wife. And they didn't do that. They booked English and European dates and used another drummer. And I thought, well, fuck that. I didn't get any phone calls. I played with them last in Australia. Everybody said goodbye at the airport. Everybody was happy. Everything was good. I went home to be with my wife. That was in the back end of February. My wife was due in the early March. I came home in March, and all of a sudden there's all these dates booked, and this guy who used to be our sound guy was the drummer. So I thought, oh well,
wow, what
can I do about it? Fuck it, I was never going to not take that time off, and they had 9 months to plan it.
Right.
To plan, all I needed was, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Me and my wife were moving into a new house. It was a new area. She was moving away from her family. I could not be here. There was no way I was not going to be here for it, you know?
Yeah, Anthony, this is Chuck. That sounds pretty reasonable. Don't book any dates in this period and let me have like only 3 or 4 weeks off. I mean, that's pretty reasonable to have to deal with a family situation.
Yeah, I guess that's what anybody else would have said, you know. It wasn't like it was last minute, you know. I mean, when the baby's coming and you have your first scan, you've got a good 9 months to plan that shit.
Right. Yeah. Well, so now are you involved in any music projects right now?
Yeah, my band's called Abaddon, and it's a mix of new stuff. The guy Steve, who's our singer, has quite a big history with punk bands and punk music, so that always gets me fired. The music ranges from our original stuff, which is punky and thrashy, and we do kind of half a set full of Venom stuff as well, with that really punky kind of attitude put back into the song. So if you listen to us play stuff from Welcome to Hell and black metal, it sounds like the way it was written. You know, it sounds like a punk band playing that. It sounds like a load of guys from 1980 playing it. You know.
Okay. Have you guys recorded an album yet, or?
We have, yeah. We've done 2 or 3 EPs, and we've got an album ready to go, which is going to be on Night of the Vinyl Dead, who are an Italian label.
Okay.
And that's going to come out probably October, November.
Oh, good.
Is it anywhere that we can where can people get their hands on the EPs?
The EPs, you need to speak to Steve Hoggart, Hoggart, and he's at 24/7 Productions.
Okay.
In England, and he's online, and he puts all the stuff online all the time. He puts rehearsal videos up there all the time, and interview stuff, and just stuff of us having a good time together, you know.
Gotcha. Thank you. So now I know that I can't remember if it was about a year ago or so. You had like a health scare.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's gone very well. It was a growth which came up on my neck kind of overnight, and it got to about 8 centimeters, something like this across, and it was gigantic. And the doctors kind of thought that because it had come up so quickly, it couldn't be cancerous. And I went and had a biopsy, and they said, "Oh, well, we're wrong. It's lymphoma. You have got cancer." So I went through chemotherapy, and I went through radiotherapy, and they found some lymph nodes in my bowel. So we went and had a look at that, and they got taken out, and it seems like everything's clear, and it seems like it's all good to go, you know.
Oh,
so
good.
It's been very successful.
So glad to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The health service we have here in England, it's under threat a bit at the moment from conglomerates and whatever, but they were so helpful and so on the ball, straight at it, and there was no expense really spared. They just were so helpful, you know, and I can only thank them, every one of them, for that.
That's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I wanted to ask you something. This is Chuck from the back when you were talking about the Metallica tour and Johnny and Marcia Z. Did you ever meet our American DJ now that worked for them at the time, Eddie Trunk? Was he around during that period?
I did. Yeah, Eddie was around. Yeah, there was a lot of big characters around at that point. And yeah, Eddie was definitely one of them. It was him, Rod Quintana, Brian Lou, all those guys were around at the same time.
Wow,
and it
cool.
was just really cool, man. It was funny because we were like this young bunch from England of sort of reprobates. And when we got there, everybody were just bigger reprobates, but a lot younger.
Yeah, I'm sure the Metallica boys were wild.
It was just fucking over the top, man. Just crazy. I remember being playing in Switzerland. I remember Metallica coming running into our backstage room. and asking us to hide them, you know. And I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And the promoter came running in with these heavy guys, you know, the security staff, and Metallica had just wrecked the fucking room, food everywhere in their changing room, and the fucking room, food everywhere in their changing room, and the security were chasing around the fucking venue and they were trying to get us to try and fucking help.
Oh, that's hilarious,
man.
Brilliant.
Let me tell you, I have very limited Venom knowledge. Like, okay, you know, I'm 56, so I know about you guys. I grew up in that time. I knew who you were, but I've always been into more melodic metal stuff, like progressive metal, like Fate's Warning, Queensryche, King Diamond, that type of stuff. And so, you know, I'm kind of getting my knowledge, you know, ready for this interview, and it amazes me how many bands the original lineup, let's say, of Venom influenced from, you know, Celtic Frost to Metallica to Slayer to Possessed to everybody. I mean, you guys, when I started listening to some stuff, I'm like, these guys are the beginning of thrash. I mean, you get pegged.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get pegged. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, I'm just going to say, you look at a band like, I don't know, Burzum or something, or some of the newer sort of Norwegian heavy-duty black metal bands, and you listen to them, and then you listen to something like Pantera, and okay, they're both metal, but they're nothing alike. They're nothing the same. But when you bring both of them back to their roots, the roots are Venom. The roots are not Black Sabbath or Motorhead or anything. The roots are Venom. So you can hear some of these bands, but each of them have developed their own style and their own kind of thing. But all the Norwegian and the Scandinavian bands, all the Japanese heavy metal, you know, over the top metal bands, and all the German bands like Creator and Destruction and all this, Sodom, all these bands. And it all comes back to Venom. It all comes right back to three arseholes from Newcastle.
100%.
Yeah. It's amazing because, you know, you guys get pegged as, you know, black metal, and you had the album Black Metal, and the genres named after that and all that. But when you listen, just even the stuff I've been listening, preparing for the interview, I'm like, these dudes are so thrashy. It's insane.
It's like when we got an interview very early on by this guy who was he was kind of known for writing about punk rock, and he wrote for a magazine called Kerrang, which is, of course, supposedly his heavy metal bible. And he said, you know what? He said, listening to heavy metal and seeing where heavy metal's going, this new version of Kerrang that he had in his hand had John Bon Jovi on the cover, and he said, you guys are not heavy metal. And we said, no. And he said, I said, well, if that's heavy metal, pointing to Bon Jovi, I said, if that's heavy metal, then obviously we're not heavy metal. If that's the Bible of heavy metal, and that's the guy who represents it this week, no, we're not heavy metal. And he said, well, what are you? And we all just chimed in. We said, we're black metal, death metal, speed metal, power metal, black metal, thrash metal. And all these things came out, and the guy's like, wait, I can't write it quick enough. And he's trying to write it down with a pen, you know, and it's like... You couldn't write fast enough to get all these genres that Venom were kind of spewing out at the same time.
I mean, I've been preaching this for years of that you guys are, you know, basically the godfathers of modern day metal. I mean, you know, like you said, a lot of things come back to that first album, Welcome to Hell.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And you know, and I have to say that, you know, that's how I branched out into metal. You know, because I started off with the Venom albums, and then the Venom albums sent me into the Slayer albums, which sent me into Possessed and Bathory, and you know.
Yeah, that's another one I forgot to mention when I was mentioning
Bathory.
Who you influenced Bathory, because I like Bathory a lot, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
But the thing I always liked about go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say the thing I always liked about Venom was the difference between Venom and a lot of bands that they influenced was there were other bands that sounded like those bands, but nothing sounded like Venom except for Venom. And that's what made it so great. Especially at the time, there was nothing that sounded like Venom. Other bands
would come and sort of listen to those bands like Satan used to rehearse in the similar in the same building as us.
Mm-hmm.
And we should turn up with a van, get the equipment out, and we'd go into one room, and Satan would turn up with their equipment. And they've told me this, recently. They'd say, we used to turn up with a van and we'd see you guys, Venom, getting your equipment out. And we just think, fuck it, it's pointless. We're not going to hear ourselves play. Just put the stuff back in the van and go home. It's a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how it was. We played in a rehearsal room as if we were playing on stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Pierre's the one that turned me on to Satan as well. I mean, I grew up with the whole new wave of British heavy metal movement and all that, and I had never heard of him, and he turned me on to him, and then turned me on to like a couple of albums.
I'm here to corrupt all their minds.
Well, Satan, I mean, get a listen to Blitzkrieg, Tyson Dog, Adam Kraft. All those bands were all from this one little tiny town in the northeast of England with one shitty little studio, shitty little record label. And Tigers and Raven and Fist. There were so many bands that came out of that period within like maybe 10 years, not even 10 years, 5 to 6 year period. And they all came out of one little town. It was incredible.
Hey, Anthony, in preparing for this, I read about this, and I've heard this years ago too, but I read this stuff about, critics like downplaying your musicianship and the like it's very rudimentary or whatever. And just the stuff I've listened to, I'm like, these dudes are totally technical. This is like, I'm like, this is why all these bands got influenced by Venom, because the stuff you guys were playing, the arrangements were, you guys even influenced Merciful Fate.
Yeah, but that's what we said at the time was that you don't have to be a virtuoso to play, your instrument. Just pick it up, have some balls, get together with your friends and make a fucking racket. You're going to have fun. And that's one of the most influential things you can say to a teenager is just go out there, buy a shit guitar, plug it into shit and just have fun. Yeah. And it'll turn out better because you'll practice more, you'll get a job, you'll make more money, you'll buy better strings, you'll buy a better amp.
Yeah,
and it transforms,
And you'll have wives hating you like we do now with all the equipment we fucking buy.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't say it was all good.
So now, who, as a drummer, who are your major influences?
Yeah, always Cozy Powell and Ian Pace.
Wow, yeah.
So many, but those two guys. Cozy Powell with the double bass drum stuff. Ian Pace because he was the backbone behind Deep Purple. How can you not be the best drummer in the world playing behind somebody like Richie Blackmore and John Lord? It's just like to be in a band like that and to be the backbone of a band like that. And they've never replaced him. He's just been there. And Cozy was incredible rock drummer, he played with all the best sort of metal, those sort of rock metal bands at the time. Incredible.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question for you that kind of ties in a little with that as a drummer. What kind of drum kits have you preferred during the years, and what do you prefer now?
Always Ludwig drums. Always.
Good.
Yeah, Ludwig's. Yeah, always. Obviously, I had to start off with a load of shit like anybody would.
Yeah.
I got to be lucky enough to be involved with a guy in my hometown who had a shop with his parents, with his father and whatever, and he was building drums, and he built some called Viking, and I managed to get one of those kits, to be able to afford one of those kits. I, as part of a centenary thing with we had the great Billy Cobham come over.
Oh, Billy!
And I was involved covering a snare drum for him, which we gifted to him when we saw him play. Saw him do a seminar. But then after that, it was always about Ludwig. It was about Paiste cymbals. I saw it as my kind of deal with Paiste to go around and try and get other people to play them, and people like Lombardo and Lars Ulrich were playing Paiste because I did. I got the rude stuff, and it was drummers like that were influenced, like well, I'm breaking these Zillions. I'm breaking these 2002s. How are you playing so heavy? How are you playing so heavy and not breaking them? It's because I'm using roods, man. I'm using Paisley roods. You don't fucking break them. You can run a car over them. They won't break. And, to this day, some of the heaviest drummers in the world are playing Paisley cymbals.
Nice. So you guys, in the outfit you're in now, do you have any plans on bringing that over here to the States?
Yeah, we'd absolutely love to. It's been this thing since we had the lockdown. Then we had all the thing with COVID. We had all the thing with we couldn't go out. Mm-hmm. We had all this thing with I had all this thing with the health that was going on for 2 years. So it's all been a bit of a smack in the mouth, certainly live wise. And a lot of bands will tell you now, there's a lot of bands cancelling tours and cancelling gigs, and it's a tough time to be out there now. There's a lot of bands that are supposed to be coming over here from America, and they're cancelling. It's a really tough time, but we've done it before, so we'll do it again.
Yeah. Did you play it all on the second Venom Inc. album, or is that totally the?
No, I didn't. I didn't play it all on. Yeah, I didn't play it all on that. It was. It's mostly done on. It's Jeff, and he mostly does it on a laptop with some computers and this kind of stuff. It's not for me. It's not all for me.
I got you.
I like it when a band gets in a rehearsal room and has a good time together and kicks the shit out of some songs. That to me is how you breathe the life into songs, not on a laptop.
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I haven't even heard the new Ink album. I have Ave, but I haven't heard the new one. And
I don't think many people have heard it.
And I'd say, me and my wife, because of you, are still drink that mixture where you put the Jack in your mouth and then you put the beer in.
Oh dear, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, look, I had like I said, I had listened to Venom since I was in high school. Never met them, never really talked to them. We walk into the not walk to the bar, but after the show, Jamie was kind of standing right where all the bands were back. I guess you could call it backstage or back in the back of the club. And
yeah,
he was kind of motioning me to come over and stand with him. And I was kind of like, I don't know if we're supposed to be over there. I'm not trying to get kicked out. So I go kind of stand there, and all of a sudden, Abaddon just runs over to me and says, "Put this in your mouth," and puts a Jack Daniels bottle in front of me. He said, "Hold it there. Now put this in your mouth," and he hands me a beer. I'm like, I told my wife, I was like, I didn't plan on drinking that night. I said, but when your childhood idol comes to you and says, "Put this in your mouth," and hands you a Jack bottle, I mean, you drink. And
you go for it, yeah.
Yeah, you go for it. It's like that's a once in a lifetime event.
That was a good night, man. It was a really good night.
I'm glad it wasn't me, because I would have had to refuse, because I've been clean from everything 28 years so far. And
oh wow.
He would have been like, "What do you mean you don't want to drink Jack Daniels?"
No. The funny thing is, I tell my wife all the time, is like, it's like, up until that night, I hated Jack Daniels. I mean, I went my whole life saying, "Oh no, no Jack for me. I don't drink Jack." It is like that one evening, drinking it that way changed my whole opinion of it.
Abaddon.
So gone.
This is Chuck. My drink of choice back when I drank was Jack and Cokes, and my little ass, I'm like 5'4". I could drink sometimes 14 Jack and Cokes in a night, still be walking. I'd be fucked up, but get through it somehow.
You get home, as long as you get home.
Oh man, well, I think we just about covered everything. There isn't this. There's something you'd like to.
That's excellent, man.
Huh?
That's excellent, man. It's been really good talking to you guys.
You as well, man. I really appreciate you letting us do this and cutting out some time for us, man. It's been an amazing thing.
And Anthony, you can surely be proud of the legacy that you guys have created.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, you have a good one, and you tell your enjoy your time with your kids and your wife.
I will do. Thank you so much.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, got that. So anyway, I reckon that's going to bring us to the close of another Women, Leather, and Hell podcast. Once again, I have been your host, Gillen H2O.
And I am Chuck.
And you just got through listening to an amazing interview with the one and only Abaddon from Venom. Peace.